Hi. So I've been trying all day to make this video, and I've been struggling to do it because I've actually been trying to make it as a method of doing exactly what it's about, which is escape. There's been some things I've been avoiding in the last couple of days in very creative ways. And first thing this morning, it came to me that I needed to talk about escape today, and I have found a number of ways to avoid doing it. So I was trying to escape talking about escaping. And then I tried to make a video about escape in an effort to escape that which I was trying to escape. There's some escapes for you, right? So one of the words that Maverick brought up in the opening of Lesson 2 for Powerless was the word escape. And the first thing that I had to think of in trying to define this word for myself is, what does escape have to do with powerlessness? Well, what was I trying to escape? I was trying to escape reality. Why was I trying to escape that reality? Well, I didn't like that reality. I didn't want to do what that reality is demanding of me to do in order to continue on my course. I felt powerless in that reality because I didn't want to deal with coming to terms with those things. So escape has to do with powerlessness because we are trying to escape a reality in which we feel something less than balanced or powerful. So it made sense to me at that point that escape would be a word that would be relevant to Lesson 2 of Powerless. So I dug a little further to kind of define, overall, what does the word escape mean to the world at large? If they were to look it up, what does the word escape mean? So escape would be to succeed in avoiding or eluding something dangerous, unpleasant, or undesirable. Escape is also a form of a temporary distraction from a reality or a routine. So putting those two things into perspective with our lesson on powerlessness, escape became more real and relevant. So I had to kind of dig a little bit further about what would be a situation in which somebody would be trying to escape. What are some situations that I try to escape? Well, I try to escape emotional discomfort before I'm ready to deal with it. I try to escape uncomfortable truths. In my past, I've tried to escape self-accountability. I've spent a great deal of my life trying to escape overburdening responsibility. Most of my life I have spent trying to avoid acknowledging imbalances. Balance has been something that has been critical to me for as long as I can remember, not understanding why, but anytime something would become out of balance in my world, it totally skewed me, and I didn't know how to fix it. So I would try to escape situations where I felt out of balance or imbalanced. I just didn't know how to escape them. So typically I would create greater imbalances in trying to escape that. There's times I've tried to escape fear. I have escaped bondage. I have escaped servitude. I spent a great deal of time trying to escape my lack of self, and that's part of where we are right now, is knowing myself, having a sense of self and identity. And that was the trigger last year that started me on this in-depth level of this phase of my journey. I spend time escaping internal conflict when I don't want to deal with something in myself, and it creates a cognitive dissonance that I don't want to resolve or deal with or acknowledge because I don't feel strong enough to do so. I often try and escape external conflict. Well, I rarely experience external conflict anymore because I just don't care. Do not engage, take the high road, be a passerby. There's very little that I care to engage in with others anymore, so I don't really have to worry about that one too much. Most of it's internal nowadays. I spent a few episodes of my life trying to escape grief. I've lost 3 people in my life to suicide. I've had other experiences of loss of people that I care about greatly. I've lost somebody that I considered my mother. I've lost somebody I considered my older brother. I've experienced grief, and I've always tried to escape it before I've been able to deal with it. Well, in my past, not in my present. Pain. We all try to find ways to escape pain. That's how we end up with addictions, is oftentimes through trying to escape pain. And many times it's a physical pain that'll start it, but an emotional or psychological pain that'll keep it going and promote it. Interpersonal and relationship dysfunctions. I've often tried to escape with those, not necessarily by the appropriate ways of dealing with the dysfunction within the relationship or the interaction, but in inappropriate ways while maintaining the relationship. Health issues. We all avoid going to the doctor. We suspect something's wrong, but we're afraid to find out, so we escape that. And one of my biggest ones has been escaping the expectations of others, because I've had a lot of experience with other people having expectations on me prior in my life that I wasn't comfortable with, and I would find creative ways to escape those. And then I had to dig some further into how did I try to escape these situations. Well, commonality, substances are used for escape. Alcohol, drugs, pills. Some people use relationships or sexual indiscretions as escape strategies. Some people participate in anonymous sexual indiscretions as escape mechanisms. People that find anonymity important might engage in something like that. Sometimes when people engage in behaviors for escape mechanisms, they get out of control and they end up with addictions. One of my huge escape strategies was work. I missed most of my son's life and a large part of my marriage working. I worked in very intensive fields before I did this work. I have a strong background in government, public finance, and real estate finance. I spent a great deal of my life completely submerged and surrounded by other people's money, with a responsibility for other people's money, with an expectation of other people about how I handled their money, while they did everything they could to avoid paying me to handle their money. It's an interesting position to be in, I assure you. However, ethics and character prevail, and you do your job, and you've got a great reputation as being trustworthy around tremendous volumes of other people's money. But you also end up with your fingerprints on file with the Secret Service for going through cash handling and counterfeit recognition classes, amongst other things, because we all know the Secret Service is in charge of the money, right? I mean, come on. If you didn't know that, you should do some research, because they are. And that's a scary place to be, too. How do you escape that? When you are in a room with 20 other people surrounded by Secret Service agents, blocking the doors, which are locked, who are armed with guns, and you have PTSD, and they are all wearing handcuffed briefcases full of millions of dollars of fake money that can get you thrown in prison that fast if they don't have a reason for your fingerprints to be on it. How do you escape that? You get traumatized and you figure it out. Things that we escape, other people's expectations of us, because that was one I did not foresee going in, and I was not able to escape that one. It was very educational, though. So, some other escape strategies, aside from substances, relationships, work. The kind of work I did, I mean, you heard a little tiny glimpse of just what I had to go through to do the job, not even counting what was part of doing the job. So work was an escape strategy, but sometimes work as an escape strategy required an escape strategy just from the type of work that was being done. One that I used to have that I used as an escape strategy was fixing people. Oh boy, that one was a problem I'll have, When you try and fix people, you're taking responsibility for the damage they have created in their own universe, in their own creation. They're creating their own world. They have made decisions that have created this world in a certain way. And when we go in and take it upon ourselves to say, oh, hey, I'm going to help you fix that, we are in essence saying, I don't like how you've done your creation, and I know a better way for your creation to function, so we're going to change and alter your creation to fit what my creation paradigm looks like for you, regardless if you see a need for it or not. Fixing violates sovereignty, and it took me a long time of hurting people and violating a lot of sovereignty to realize that just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's the way for them. I now help people find the ways that help them. I don't tell people what to do. I don't want the responsibility of that. It's not my gig. Fixing others. One of my escape strategies that is calling to me very strongly right now is wandering. I am known to wander. I'm like coming up on 2 years in this house real soon, next week actually, and I'm ready. I'm ready to just pack up and start wandering around. No destination needed. I'm quite comfortable being uncomfortable. That's not something that fits into my world right now, and I don't have any instructions around that. It's just part of who I am, and it's part of how I maintain my life. So that's one of my escape strategies, is I wander. Something I've learned from others that I try very strongly to avoid doing, that most people don't realize, is criticism is an escape strategy. When we focus on criticizing how other people are doing things in their own world, we are escaping focusing on how we are doing things in ours. By putting our energy into telling them the right ways to do the things that we perceive they're doing wrong, we are avoiding telling ourselves the right ways to fix the stuff we've messed up. So criticism is not only cruel and undermining, it's also escaping of your own life. Control and manipulation. Those are escape strategies I used a lot in my youth. I have mentioned previously that I'm pretty good with words, and I used to be able to cause a great deal of harm to people with words, and I could also use those words to control and manipulate people without them even realizing what was going on until after it was done. And that was an escape mechanism that allowed me to feel like I had some control and power in the world because I didn't have any in my own. It was total projection. Avoidance was another escape strategy I had. I could just avoid the whole thing altogether until it went away. Then I don't have to deal with it. It doesn't even exist. If I never engaged in it, I didn't have to acknowledge it. Therefore, it doesn't happen, it doesn't exist, it goes away, and it never was. So it's not a thing at all at that point. I just avoided it. So avoidance was a very powerful escape strategy that caused me a lot of trouble in my life. Inappropriate medications and self-medicating. Now that was a dangerous one. I allowed myself to be prescribed medications by mental health professionals that they felt that I needed, that were contrary to everything about myself. The side effects, the reasons, the reason they felt it needed, everything was contrary to what I felt was right for me. But because they were the professionals and they were the ones with the knowledge and they had earned the degree with the alphabet soup by in their name, they must know that it's the right thing, even though I can feel in my gut and in my heart that it's not. That was a conflict that went on for a long time. But I allowed it to happen because it was easier than dealing with the situation that I was dealing with. It was easier to take those pills and allow myself to become numb, not balanced, numb, and not deal with the imbalance. The imbalance was what I was trying to escape. The numbness created by the meds was the escape mechanism. I no longer take those. I spent some time working in a health food store and learned a great deal about supplements, diet, exercise, and nutrition, and the nature of my mental state was not such that it required medication to maintain stability, and I do just fine without it. My ex-husband, however, when he made his decisions to cease taking his medications, was done in a non-medically advised manner for a non-medically advised reason, for an illness in which it would never be medically advised to cease medications. But he had seen a television celebrity who was using an escape strategy of their own, ignorance, to avoid the powerless reality of the expectation of others, and spewed forth ignorant anti-health knowledge about mental health on a television show. And this particular celebrity was somebody whom my husband, my ex-husband, valued and felt was knowledgeable because of their own religious affiliations and the requirements of their own religion. So when this person had their public breakdown on a daytime television show talking about mental health things, my ex-husband took that to heart and made some very poor decisions of his own. And that was a situation where medication was required. And in that situation, supplements, diet, exercise will never, ever be the fix for that. And I'm saying that so that anybody who is hearing me thinking about trying something like that realizes that there are extremes involved here. And that only works for specific minor extremes, not extremes like paranoid delusional schizophrenia. Just a health and safety advisory based on the comments that I made. So that brings me to the escape strategy of ignorance. And ignorance is a very effective escape mechanism because it allows you to just play dumb. Just, I don't know. I didn't know. Now, if you're in a courtroom, that won't work because the judge is going to tell you that ignorance is no excuse of violating the law if you're poor. If you're rich, it won't matter. But ignorance is a great escape strategy, and people use it all the time. It's like, well, why didn't you do that? Expecting somebody to take personal accountability. Well, I didn't know. Now they have escaped personal accountability for something that somebody else perceives should have been done. So ignorance is a very powerful escape strategy, but it's also a very powerful tool for digging yourself into a hole, because that's a double-edged sword. In your own world, you might be able to say in that situation, well, I didn't know, so I'm not accountable for that. But that same responsibility that you would have for yourself, you may also have over somebody else. And now you have made yourself a threat to that other person over whom you would have had that responsibility that you have now denied knowledge of. So that can be a double-edged sword. You want to take that carefully. So I'm bringing all of this to you to provoke thought about escape, denial, powerlessness, secrets, pretty much everything we worked on already going through lesson 1, and how they tie together. Because vigorous honesty, which is what is going to be needed to get through this, vigorous honesty is uncomfortable, and it's something we often seek to escape. So I recommend, as you go through these exercises, that you check yourself and make sure that you're not in some way escaping the true work. I've given you some examples of what things you might be escaping, ways you might be trying to escape them, so that you can provoke thought about, where do you seek to escape things? How do you do that? And is it causing harm or hindering you or building barriers in your progress? So escape's a pretty big one, and there's a lot more that I could say. I have a whole bunch of notes about it, but I think we've talked about that enough to kind of understand the concept of it and the importance of it in applying cognizant focus to these exercises going into lesson number 2. So thank you all for your time. I hope that you're able to find some truths or keys for your own journey in the words I've shared with you this evening, and I hope you have a great night. Be love.